Hey guys, I want to talk a little bit about fear of going crazy, and I put that in quotation marks because, of course, like we generally don't use the term crazy for mental health, but when we're talking in very colloquial or very common everyday kind of terminologies, the word crazy is thrown out there for someone who may think that, oh, they have a fear of uh, going into psychosis or developing maybe schizophrenia or any other kind of mental break that's going to essentially make them lose control or any sense of reality, and they're just going to start displaying very violent behaviors. And there are a lot of different like angles to look at it from, and it's not that complex or complicated, but it can feel like that when it feels like your entire life is dependent on your sanity and you being normal in that way. Again, I use this in a lot of my videos because all of these terms and a lot of the words that we use when we're talking about OCD and when we're describing our fears, they're very built up in our mind. So I always do this because it's like, this signifies that that term or that word needs to be thought of in a bit more of a critical way. But before I go on talking about this, please subscribe to our channel and please let us know what you think. And if you want to get in touch with us for help, you have our WhatsApp chat link in the description below, and we're here to guide you and help you. Always welcome. So when it comes to the fear of going crazy, it's a lot to like do with, of course, that if we lose control, then we're going to start displaying a lot of violent behavior, whether it's towards other people or towards ourselves, right? And it often in the mind feels like we're going to have that very stereotypical mental break that we see in maybe TV shows and movies, where someone has these like crazy eyes and then they're just like absolutely like glass-eyed, and they don't have any emotions, and they're completely just bent on causing havoc and that kind of break, right? So, but you have to try and kind of like slow down on that front a little bit, and you have to try and think of, okay, what is it that you're actually really afraid of when it comes to the fear of going crazy, right? And when you break it down into components, there are a few things that come to mind over there. Of course, this links to not only harm OCD classically, but it can also even link to existential OCD, because it's that feeling of having just a complete disconnection from reality and sanity. And it feels like the connection that you feel towards your family and your loved ones, emotionally speaking, especially, and the fact that you feel like everything is real, is what you think makes your life worth living. And if you lose that, then that's where your life is going to be completely meaningless, and it will go out the window. So when you break it down into components, these are the usual components that come with fear of going crazy. One is the fear of losing control, right? And it'll be interesting that you will see that it's not then just about, oh my god, I'm going to do something harmful if I lose control of my brain, but it's also going to be, you're also going to observe the fear of going crazy, or sorry, the fear of losing control in small mundane areas of your life as well, right? So if you will feel like, let's say, for some people, that fear of losing control is going to be very subtle also in the fear of not having control over their maybe schedule or routine, or if the way that they run their house or something is kind of like not in their control, right? That's going to feel like, oh, they want to control that. So the control element, you're going to see that it's going to be in a very subtle, compulsive way, be very obvious in your day-to-day life as well. So it's important to look at those behaviors too, and try and change your level of control generally in life, right? So the fear of losing control obviously is like a big one in this. I think the second one, like I said, can be fear of losing touch with reality, which is a bit more of an existential kind of thing over here. Then there is the fear of losing connection. That's another big one, because if you feel like you have lost your sanity, then it feels like you've lost connection to your loved ones. And a lot of people are, even on a day-to-day basis, on a very mundane level, you might notice yourself trying to really force that feeling of feeling connected and bonded and emotionally kind of like this with your loved ones, right? Really trying to keep that intact, because for you that's like of the utmost important thing. Which makes it easy for us to look at the next fear, which is the fear of, then of course, losing your loved ones in one way or another, whether it's you killing them, or whether it's the fact that because you'll go crazy, therefore you're going to lose those relationships and you're not going to be able to enjoy them the same way in your life that you have so far, right? So it's then looking at a fear of not having your loved ones in your life in some shape or form, right? And the thing over here to remember as well is that you have to, don't just look at it in the context of, oh, the fear, I don't want to lose my loved ones by me like killing all of them, right? Don't look at don't always look at it in those terms, because it's going to be harder to break down as well. I think look at it in a general sense as well, that okay, like if you were to lose your loved ones by some shape or form, whether they die from natural causes or whether they choose to just not be a part of your life, whatever that may be, break that down, see what life feels like or can look like if they're not a part of your life in that way, right? Because when you look at, if you're not, when you're looking at all the fears that make up that fear of going crazy, right? If you're always and only going to look at those secondary kind of like fears in the context of going crazy and killing them, it'll be harder to break down. So when you even break down the fear of losing control, don't only break it down and try to look at different perspectives only in the case of losing control and killing. Just look at fear of losing control in and of itself as well, right? Because that will help you then loosen things up little by little with a bit more success, right? That would be my advice on that. Then the other fear often is, of course, the fear of losing all the happiness and potential that you have in your life. So of course, that if you go crazy and you are then institutionalized and you're in a ward or a mental hospital or something, it feels like obviously all the happiness that you have in your normal life has now completely gone away, and all this like promise of your life that you have of a successful career and like a really good family and having seeing your kids grow up and all the other goals and opportunities and traveling and everything that you want to do, that will basically be taken away from you if you are then put in in an institution or something. So that fear is also like a big one, of the fear of lost potential, the fear of lost happiness kind of thing. Another common one is the fear of being a burden, because if you are someone who has a mental break, then essentially you become dependent on your loved ones, because you yourself are not capable of taking care of yourself, and you can't do any of those things. You can't be given any responsibilities, essentially. So the fact that, oh, I don't want to be a burden on other people, and again, this notion, you're going to see this like play out in your life in smaller ways as well. Maybe you're someone who doesn't like asking people for help. Maybe you don't like to lean on other people for any kind of support, because you always want to be the one to handle things on your own. So those are small subtle ways that those fears play out in our life too, and you have to look at those behaviors too, because those are compulsive. Because let's say you are someone who has a fear of being a burden as a result of having a mental break or something. The fear of being a burden might be playing out in your day-to-day life as you trying to be always self-sufficient, right? You, like I said, like even at work, you will see maybe you as someone who maybe doesn't like to delegate work. Maybe you don't like to ask your team members for support and help, that hey, can you help me out with this, because you want to show yourself and other people that you can handle yourself and you can do things on your own. So every single time that you're doing those behaviors in your life, you're reinforcing that same wiring in your brain that I cannot be a burden on other people. I have to be self-sufficient. I always have to be the one to take care of myself. If anything, I have to be the one to take care of other people too. But I can't be in a position where people have to take care of me and I am basically causing them some kind of inconvenience in life. So you have to try and tackle those things in those areas of your life as well. Of course, there can, and then there can be so many other things. There can be the fear of not being in control of where your life goes after having a mental break. It can be the fear of living with guilt and shame, because of course, if you display violent behaviors as a result of having a mental break, then you're going to have so much guilt and shame for the fact that you did that. But also, chances are that you might not also feel that, because I don't know if you will be in that normal brain headspace where you will be able to perceive guilt and shame as well, or the fact that you've done something wrong. So you might not even feel that. Who knows? But I think the other critical angle I wanted to bring in over here is that even if we look at going crazy, or if we look at psychosis, right? How we perceive going crazy and being psychotic is something that has changed across time so much as well. Because like many decades ago, even the fact, let's say, if there was, and especially women went through this quite a lot, like if they displayed a lot of emotion, or if they were very emotional about the situation, if they were jealous, or if they screamed or something, it would be like, oh, she's psychotic, right? And or she's having psychosis because she's going through that. Or maybe even, again, anyone who either was depressed or who was chronically anxious perhaps was also seen as crazy, and they were seen as they were having psychosis. So and obviously, we in the very early days, you also had things like lobotomies and whatnot, and people would what's that term where I'm forgetting the term, where they put your head in water and then they take it out. It starts with an F, I know, but I'm forgetting what that term is. Anyway, they would do those things as well. Obviously, there would be some electric shocks given to your brain as well. There would be so many methods people would do to somehow try and get the psychoticness out of you, kind of thing. But those things have also changed a lot as well. Like you hear, I think, I mean, I'm not going to say this as the prime example, but I'm just that's the example that's coming to my mind right now as well, is that I think Lady Gaga recently said that she experienced psychosis a few years ago, right? So psychosis is also now seen as normal people can also have psychosis, and they can experience psychosis or psychotic episodes. And of course, with help and whatnot, they're able to get out of it too, and they're able to resume normal life after some help. So, but in our minds, of course, the fixation is the kind of psychosis or going crazy that is going to be this, there's no going back from it, permanent damage, permanently changing your life completely, and not being in any sane, stable position at all. So it's this very exaggerated, catastrophic thing as well. So I think looking at just the term of psychosis and what it means to be crazy, and seeing how that has changed across time, is also something that it's a perspective to take into account. Because of course it's a term that's thrown around very casually, and it's seen as a warning thing of oh, stay away from this person because they're crazy or they're psychotic, right? And that's what also sticks to us too. There's still a bit of that stigma. I think that some people who may experience some psychosis will not publicly talk about it that much, because then people will permanently see them as unhinged, or someone who may just falter very easily in life. Whereas, I mean, I would imagine that not with everyone, not from a point of reassurance, but just from a realistic angle, I think that's not the case for everyone. I'm pretty sure that they have very successful interventions now where they can help the person redirect their life and come back to normal as well. So or as normal as can be. But some good perspectives to consider over here on that front as well. But I think the kind of meat of this fear of going crazy is in breaking down those fears that are previously listed down, because that's where you're going to really see the different components of what's happening. If you were, I don't know, another random example coming to my mind is that, let's say there's a big machine that is firing I don't know, laser beams at you constantly. You can't just and you're you need to stop that. But in order to stop that, you also need to know that, okay, what wiring is in there, and what I don't know what motherboard or chips are in there that you need to perhaps unplug or cut or smash or whatever, because you can't just take like a huge fist and be like, okay, I'm just going to smash this machine and stop it. You have to be able to see what the finer components of it are in order to kind of, stop it firing laser beams at you. I've been watching, I've been doing some throwback Justice League and Young Justice reruns on Netflix, because, by the way, the Young Justice series is, it may seem like, oh, this is for kids or whatnot, but when you actually watch it, it's very much made for grown-ups, to be honest, because the content is quite mature. The themes and the emotion in it makes me so emotional watching it too. So it's not made for kids. So anyone who's a fan of animated shows or superheroes, please watch that show because it's amazing. Anyway, sorry, I just got carried away. But so that's why that example is coming to my mind, where whenever like something is like, when they're in danger, they're not trying to just completely destroy the machine. They're like, okay, what is the component of it that's making this machine powered all the time? So maybe let's just like destroy that little I don't know, that little screen or something, and I think that's what's going to stop it anyway. So that's kind of how you have to look at this like big bad fear of like, oh my god, like I'm just going to go crazy, because your brain is going to keep throwing that one statement at you: I'm going to go crazy, I'm going to go crazy, I don't want to go into psychosis, I don't want to develop schizophrenia. And it's just going to focus on that over and over and over and over again, that just one term. But you have to look at what lies beneath. What is it that makes the foundations of that fear on top? That is where you really have to do the work. And that is where you also have to look at your finer, subtle behaviors as well. That's where you're going to make the progress. So I hope this helps, and throw any questions my way. Happy to answer them. Also happy if you even disagree with something as well. That's fine, but we can have a discussion about that as well. Anyway, guys, I'll see you on another video. Bye.